podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
No question about that. It's supported by you, our listeners, through patreon.com/NQAT pod, where you can get access to our weekly ad-free bonus episode talking about football around the Premier League and Europe. Welcome to No Question About That. This is the post-Newcastle pod. United 1, Newcastle 0 with Dharnish. A victory for Amorim using a 4-2-3-1, sort of. How's it going, mate?
And breathe.
That second half, bloody hell.
I was anxiety-inducing, but I couldn't believe it was maybe the 45th or 50th minute in the second half where Newcastle were like camped in an hour and a half. I was like, they cannot hold on to this. They cannot. I think I was like I was agreeing with Gary Neville for once. There's no way they're going to hold on to this, but absolutely like battling performance, heroic defending, heroic win in the circumstances where you have so many players out. Your best player is out. Mbeumo Diallo, Mainu is out. And then on top, I think they ended the game without Shaw, Martinez, Casemiro. They all came off. Incredulous win in the circumstances. This United team is just so odd. They win when when you don't expect them to, and they lose or they drop points when you don't expect them to.
Well, Newcastle had 76% possession in the second half. That is not a misprint. 76% possession. But really, how many chances, real good quality chances did they create? Out of that, nothing. United defended really well, despite the shape change. The shape change in the second half shifted all the momentum, didn't it? I mean, we were legitimately playing well in that first half. I thought in a 4-2-3-1 system.
Yeah.
And you add that the context of this was Ruben said in the pre-match press conference, the embargoed part that's normally for written press. He said it's I'm paraphrasing, it's clear that we won't have the time or the money to get the perfect players for a 3-4-3. So we have to change a few things, right? And now that 4-2-3-1 we got in that first half, which was much more clear, I'd say, than against Bournemouth, which was more of a hybrid. That's the kind of system like a lot of people are going, yeah, mate, you should do that with this squad. That's exactly what you should do. And no, you won't get 3 years. And no, you won't get £500 million to do it.
Maybe he had some Portuguese wine, genuinely. Maybe I had some Portuguese wine over Christmas and was like, wait, hold on.
Yeah?
What the hell am I doing?
Portuguese wine being called port, of course. No, is it
actually? I'm not very...
No, they do grow... They do actually grow grapes and make proper, real wine in Porto, but in Portugal, sorry. But there's a whole tradition. If you ever go to Porto and you go to the Carbs...
I've been to Porto.
Beautiful place, lovely place.
Awesome.
And
absolutely brilliant.
Tour the port houses, and it's this whole thing where the British sailors would sail up the Douro Valley, but the raw grapes would go bad before they got them to port. So they started putting loads of sugar in it.
Genius.
In order to preserve it, and that's where you get port from, fortified wine. And they'd put alcohol back in. So that's where you get it from. But so he'd had a few of those. And he was like, I'll play a 4-2-3-1.
He preserved his 3-4-3 and then he came up with a 4-2-3-1. There's been a big reaction. There was a big reaction, I think, before the game as well, because it was actually quite a smart analysis, I think, from Sky Sports and Gary Neville, because they were like, oh my God, they're playing a 4-2-3-1. But I was like, bro, did you not watch Bournemouth? They played a back four. They played with a back four against Bournemouth.
Sort of played with a back four.
I think they did play with a back four against Bournemouth. Yeah. And it was bold that the Dorgu played on the right wing. That was probably the best Patrick Dorgu performance I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
He was insane. He was brave on the ball. I think because he was thrust into that role is like you have to be brave on the ball and you have to be forced to play with the football. Our football generally in the first half was good as well. It was this team, when they got points last season in that bleak winter period where they were like, okay, we might actually bloody have to fight. We have to get ourselves away from not the relegation zone, but away from the prospect of ever being relegated, which is just, awful. They could play in a mid block or a low block. And that's what they did in the first half. But the difference between the first and the second was they kept having Cunha on the ball or Dorgu on the ball to sprint away, and then an inside pass to one of the central midfielders. So we actually got quite a lot of opportunities on the counter-attack in the first half. The second, he was like, all right, look, all hands to the pump. I don't care. I am holding on to this today. We're not losing 1-0. I don't give a shit. Bring any kid that you see off the bench. Bring him on. I don't care. I'll bring anybody off. I have to say, heroic win in the end. The substitutions in the second half, I want to know now what comes out and who's injured and who is fit, because Mason Mount is huge for Man United out of possession. Like
he must have been injured.
I think he has to be.
Yeah.
I hope that he's done it in a way where it's like, I've already lost a lot of players. I don't want to lose Casemiro and Mount, because in the end it kind of works out.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand some of the second half substitutions because they're worried about fitness of Sesko and Casemiro. Casemiro obviously didn't look happy about getting substituted. But they have a lot of games. They've got Wolves coming up in a couple of days, and then they've got the Leeds game and then the Cup game against Brighton. And you know, we know that Casemiro's worst performances for United have been where he's had to play 3 games in a week, right? So they're managing his minutes. They've done that very sensibly. So I can kind of understand that one. The rest of them were really chaotic. I mean, United lost all momentum with a lot of the changes in the second half. I'm just going to assume Mount was injured. I haven't seen the post-match quotes. Going to assume he was injured or felt something, and they're being careful with him, because I thought he would never come off otherwise. Jack Fletcher couldn't really get into the game second half.
No.
And United just ended up, I mean, 18-year-old kid.
No, I know.
Second appearance, so, you know.
I really want a game where the kids can get into it. You know what I mean? I feel like they're being thrust into these difficult situations. Shea Lacey came on against Villa where we needed a goal, and I was begging. I was on my
5
knees.
minutes ago, yeah.
I was taking my shirt off. I was throwing my slippers at the TV when he shot that shot, and it went straight at the keeper. But I just feel like, but it's very good that that the kids came on in those circumstances and got a win. We finished with Fredrickson, Fletcher. Who else am I missing? Am I missing some more?
Lacey
Heaven
didn't come on. Heaven, obviously, I'm not really an academy player, but a youngster for sure.
I'll count him. But it's good that they got that under their belts, and they played in a difficult situation, because they'll be called upon in the next few weeks, I feel, as well. It won't just be that. We don't know how long Ahmad and Mbeumo are going to be at AFCON, and I think Bruno's out for 4 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, the contrast between the two halves. Newcastle had 3 shots in the first half, and I can't even count how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 in the second, and on 35% possession. But so Opta is telling me 1 big chance Newcastle created in that second half. I can't even remember which one was the big chance. But it kind of is telling. They've scored 7 goals away from home all season. Their record away from home is dreadful. They can't score goals.
Yeah.
They don't score goals. You know, credit to Amorim. When he changed the shape with Casemiro, Ugarte and Mount, it meant we matched them up in midfield in that first half. And that's where they bullied us consistently the last few years. Yeah.
Nail on the head, yeah. I tweeted about this multiple times. It was that 3v3. You saw Mount, Ugarte and Casemiro, Tonali, Ramsey, and help me out here.
Guimaraes, Bruno.
That's it. And they were all marked off. By them being marked off, it means you can't go through the middle. And then they kept going wide. And that was fine, because even in the second half, when we saw it was all hands to the pump, they kept going wide and crossing the ball in, and Aiden Heaven just dealt with it. And it was absolutely fine. I thought...
By the way, a lot of credit for Aiden Heaven in recent weeks. He had 1 hard game, didn't he, when he'd kind of just come back into the side. Ever since then, he looks like a real player. Top Premier League defender. He's good on the ball. He likes fighting. He does... he's probably too aggressive in some circumstances, I think.
Yeah.
Like, they could point to him and say, hey, Lenny, be like this. A little bit more like this. Because Lenny Yora's got all the qualities. He just doesn't like doing the dirty stuff. Heading, fighting, box defending.
Yeah. And I feel
Aiden Heaven loves that shit. He likes defending. He likes doing the dirty stuff. And he's been really good.
I think it's good as well because I remember, I think, like you said, he had a bad first game. And I remember particularly the second game after that he played him again. He was like, look, I don't care if he's had a bad game. I'm going to play him again. I can't remember what game it was, the second one when he came back. We'll have to look it up. he lunged in too hard at somebody and he lost the ball. I remember they showed Amorim on the touchline and he yelled Aiden and he did the calmer and he was like, look, mate, just calm down a bit. Ever since then, he's been locked in. Those performances that we have, those wins that we have, those like play on the counter, back to goal, all hands to the pump, you normally associate them with Harry Maguire being on the pitch or De Ligt being on the pitch. This time it was Heaven on the pitch, so I thought it was brilliant. I thought that the press lost its shape completely when Mount came off, and it fell apart completely when Casemiro came off. That was really like, okay, retreat, 10 men behind the ball, but they did get through it. I can't believe I'm sitting here with 3 points with the way they did it, and it's an uplifting win in the circumstances.
And you know what? I mean, we've got to get onto Patrick Dorgu's goal. We haven't mentioned that 10 minutes into the pod, but part of the reason why you can feel a bit secure at the back is not only, Martinez and Heaven who like doing the dirty defensive stuff, but they actually have a competent goalkeeper. He just comes out, he takes a high ball if he needs to, relieves some pressure. He's decent at corners. He flapped at one, but there were two players in his way, so it's kind of understandable. Got a hand to it at least. It's no drama.
So calm.
Less than 20 million quid, less than 20 million. He's just a good keeper.
What was your uncle? We don't need to speak about him too much, but he was brilliant today.
Oh no, that's the thing. We don't need to speak about it.
Yeah, but because that's the point. Like,
I know.
We don't need to. We shouldn't be speaking about goalkeepers every week. We only speak about them when they make mistakes, and unfortunately, we were doing that a lot with Onana. But this guy's just chill, calm, collected.
It's been 4 years, Dharnish, because David De Gea's last 2 years, he had the yips. He just he lost it. His confidence had gone. He's been asked to play with the football, which he doesn't like, and that seemed to affect everything else. So I don't know what it was. He lost his focus. And so we've had 4 years of disastrous goalkeeping, and now we've got someone who's confident.
It's a long time.
It is, yeah, and it really affects everyone else. And who knows what his ceiling is, but at the moment it's not shit, and anything but better than not shit is a bonus, right?
There was a few times where he came out of his goal and he was just absolutely calm, got us out of the attack, got us out of that was our kind of version of, in football when you're defending backs to the wall and you need a striker to go into the corner flag and just waste 2 minutes. That was kind of what Le Mans did with those three. I think three. Like, he came out of his net, caught the ball straight away from across, and everybody was chilling, like wasted a good 20, 30 seconds. Or like maybe Dorgu going to the ground, wasted 20, 30 seconds in the same spot. But just leading on to that, I want to speak about Joshua Zirkzee in that second half, because like you needed in that circumstance a scraps striker. You needed a guy who was like, kick it to the corner. I'm gonna bustle chow. I'll bustle shot. I'll fight for it. I'll win as a free kick. And he just wasn't that. Le Mans is very chill because he's calm, he's collected, and he makes me feel safe. Zirkzee is too chill because he's inactive and he doesn't do enough. He's too passive and he lets attacks pass him by. There was just too many occasions where I was like, you're fresh legs and the team needs you to take maybe just waste a minute. You have the skill set to do so. I know you can take players on. So just why aren't you doing that? I think Amorim was fuming at him a couple of times. I saw some tweets from somebody. So I just felt as though like it wasn't normally in those games you have a striker that gets you out of jail sometimes, and we didn't have that. Be it in Šeško, who just doesn't look fit. I don't know what's going on there, but he genuinely looks like he's just playing with, when you get a stitch, when you had fish and chips before a game of 5-a-side or something, and you go for your first sprint, you're like, it just kind of feels like that's what he's doing. Having said that, he could have scored.
Great shot against the bar from Šeško. I mean, we knew all about his power beforehand. He can power off either foot. He's just not quite as mobile as he should be right now. But we saw, when he came in at the beginning of the season and he wasn't fit because he hadn't had a proper pre-season and had that back problem, he looked a bit kind of ungainly. The first touch wasn't there, and then it got better and better and better. And unfortunately, he's had, first the minor muscle injury and then the knee injury. And it's kind of derailed a little bit the first half of his season. So I think there's a lot more to come of him, and they're making sure he doesn't get re-injured. And I'm sure the sports scientists are telling him he can only really play an hour at the moment, and they'll build up to more. But I agree, it made a big difference when Zirkzee came on. Not that kind of forward. I mean, Xerxes off anyway. as soon as AFCON is done, he'll be off to Roma. Just assume they're going to make the deal there for the, whatever the terms are on the loan plus obligation or option. And he'll be gone, and we'll see whether they can reinvest that money for someone else. I mean, we definitely, it's bad enough having one main striker of the profile that would work at the club, plus Xerxes as a backup. To go into the second half of the season with no backup would be mad.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
I had that dream again. My small business needs to hire, but I don't use LinkedIn, and I hire an energy vampire. But also they're a literal vampire. And suddenly my team is spending all their time sharpening wooden stakes and buying bulk silver and rehearsing ancient chants, and then I wake up.
Don't let hiring nightmares ruin your dreams. LinkedIn Jobs' new AI assistant takes insights from over 1 billion professionals to create a short list of the best fits for you. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/quality. Start hiring today with LinkedIn.
Get me a January transfer in the ilk of Edison Cavani. I don't know who, by the way, because I don't know. Football is really weird where like players at the end of their career kind of go to Italy or America now. They don't really, you don't really get.
Yeah, I'm okay with that if we give them a 1-year contract or 6 months, not 3 years. That's part of the problem. All right, we didn't mention Patrick Dorgu. He scored a Paul Scholes. Corner, headed out, banged it in. I guess it's a shame for him that it didn't go in the top corner, but great hit and fantastic technique as well.
Yeah. What a volley. What a shot. You saw Luke Shaw coming onto it as well. So I was like, I don't know who you would want in that situation because I don't think Shaw scored that many for us.
Ugarte was hanging around. I don't want him on it for sure.
Buzz off. But great hit, great shot, and good performance in general. It wasn't just that. Yeah. It was like, I think, was that the Dorgu performance? Was that the lifter?
Well, maybe. I mean, he'd certainly played in that role for Lecce before, right? He'd had a few times playing on the right wing and cutting in. And it's a different kind of performance because he doesn't have to worry so much about the defensive part of it.
Yeah.
Or like having to run back and cover on his own all that ground. So maybe that helps. I mean, I think it's not been his application, or obviously he's a great athlete as well. He's quick, he's very quick, and he'll run all day, and he gets in really good positions. It's just the quality that is the problem with him. And if he knew how to cross a ball or play the final pass at the right time, then you'd think the ceiling would be really high, but he doesn't, and he hasn't improved any of that. And so that's why it's such a surprise that he managed to spank one in off a volley.
Yeah. I mean,
but good for him. And I've got nothing bad to say about him, other, like from a professionalism standpoint or effort, or it's just the quality that's been the problem.
Maybe that was the game to do it, though. Maybe we'll get to see him express more confidence in the wing-back role if he plays that again, or if he plays as a right winger again, because he might get more tries. I don't know if Mount's injured or not yet, because I feel like that position, Diallo has made it his own because of how expressive he is. He's very expansive. He has no problem taking on 2-3 men. I feel like that performance like that might give Dorgu the confidence that's the same to do so. It's a huge, huge win. I just keep looking back at the other games and go, well, hold on. We beat Newcastle with like all of our team out. We beat a very difficult team in Palace away from home, and they dropped points to Everton and West Ham, and you just
it's so frustrating, yeah. And we won at Liverpool, and we.
It's so puzzling. It's so puzzling. It's like it's like having that girl that you think you really like, but then she keeps doing stuff that is kind of good, and then she keeps blowing you off sometimes for other dates, and you're like, what's going on? But you're really intrigued, and you're like, don't worry, I'll go on a date with you again. Absolutely, I'll pay for the entire bill.
I think the frustrating thing about it is that Amorim was so like fundamentalist about his system and his approach, but he's proven that to not be true. right? He can make adaptations, as he has done in recent weeks. And I don't know whether he's had a word with leadership who are like, you want to keep your job, mate? You have to make some changes. Because in trying circumstances of injury or just needing results, he's made changes. And he's tinkered, we've talked about it before, he's tinkered a lot this season trying to get the best out of the players he's got. But it was obviously always a squad that didn't have the profile as a player that he needed to make it work in the 3-4-3, which is, wing backs who are competent defending and going and attacking, and two extremely mobile, physical central midfielders, right? And plus the wide central defenders who are comfortable moving into midfield. It's less of a problem. But the first two in particular, he just hasn't had that.
Yeah.
Right. So you could go, oh well, bad luck. Bad luck, mate. You just haven't got the resources you need. Or you could go, take the squad you've got and adapt it.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is what Oliver Glasner's done at Palace, and he ended up in a different position. He ended up at a 3-4-3 because he's like, I've got the players that suit this system, having never really played it before in his life. And Amorim's like, I absolutely have to do this. Coming to a new league where people are going to work you out really fucking quickly, and I guess that's a frustration. We've had 60 games before he said, oh, maybe I need to make a change.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, the evidence that we have of the last 3 weeks, again, changed the system today, changed it against Bournemouth, few tweaks against Aston Villa, or a few some innovative tactical tweaks and substitutions that I can get behind.
Yeah.
Why did we not see this last season? Because on top of that, now, whenever there's a Man United loss or a bad performance, because of what's happened last season, everybody is up in their arms and saying, why is this guy the manager? This guy should have been sacked already. And if he was sacked already, I don't think anybody would say, okay, no
one would defend him.
That.
And I mean, it was definitely the Europa League final that kind of did for a lot of the, as Andy Mitten would call them, moderates, right? The people who aren't extreme and not chasing clicks on social media or whatever, right? The performance in that one was just after all the shit to get to there, really like, we can take all the shit, we can take 15th and we win this game. And they were so pathetic and passive to a dreadful Tottenham side who haven't stopped being dreadful ever since. And get these two fundamentalist managers who are like, yeah, our philosophy can never change. And it was Big Ange who changed his philosophy and stuck 10 men behind the ball and got a victory as a result. And Amorim didn't, and United couldn't do anything about it. And I think a lot of people were kind of turned as a result of that. And I kind of don't blame them. I think I said to you last time I was on, funny, people always accuse us of having some kind of agenda. Like we're like, okay, what are we going to say this time to wind people up, And it's just like just a take,
We
it's
do not have the time for that, man. I ain't got the time for that.
I ain't got the inclination either.
I'm going to marriage events out there. Do you think I got the time for
Dharnish, that? By the way, advert, not for better help or whatever. Dharnish is looking for a lady, so if you're out there, ladies, he's single.
I don't know what to add to that. I've got no...
Single, and he's not in the Epstein files yet.
We hope.
Completely lost my track on that one, yeah. I find it really hard to say, is Amorim a good coach or not a very good coach? Because he's obviously incredibly detailed with his work. I think we've had loads of reporting around this, like how fastidious he is about little things, and he's of the ilk of modern manager that is totally encompassing about every kind of phase and situation in play, right? So there's that, right? And yet he's had a game model out there that doesn't suit the Premier League very well, I think it's fair to say. Doesn't suit this squad very well. It's not part of United's history, and he refused to change it. And he had this kind of went from like, I'll impose my system to this kind of weird hybrid pressing system where they press and then they try and sprint back as fast as possible when they lose the ball. And you're like, none of these things are working, mate. Why haven't you changed them before?
Why haven't you changed them?
And that's we've won tonight against a Newcastle side who were very good last season, not so good this season. It's a big victory and we're up to 5th. We're in the Champions League places. Depends what Liverpool do next tomorrow. But that's great. But at the same time, you're going, 60 fucking games, dude.
Yeah. So he hasn't helped himself. The best managers in the world right now, they all change. They either do one thing and work on it very, very well, or they constantly change. You might not want to hear this, by the way, but Mikel Arteta has been brilliant at Arsenal because every single season he's changed the tactics. Every single season he's changed the tactics, whether it was set pieces, whether it was explosiveness at the beginning, whether it was, okay, we shit the bed and we bottled the title, now we're going to sustain attacks and be more calmer. And then it's like, okay, we got loads of injuries, I'm going to change it again. He's an example. Pep Guardiola innovates almost every single week. Doesn't always work, but he's aware of the fact that you need to keep changing because, hey presto, when it comes to the 10th minute and you have shown your hand and you might have warmed up in a 3-4-3, but then you actually start in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, and Eddie Howe has called your bluff. It might have been a nice move at the beginning, but hey, within 10 minutes it gets found out because that's just how the league is. This league will find you out sooner or later. So it's just incredible that we're sitting here now after 60 games of it's been in the Amorim era, and now he's like, okay, he needs to change. What I will say is, I don't know how true this is, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ten Hag had this thing like right towards the end of his tenure, before he won the FA Cup final, where he had, I think, 3 or 4 games left. Ineos were just coming in. There's a few reports that said he had a meeting with Ineos, and Ineos said, look, mate, change the tactics. I don't know whether these reports were true or not, but here presto, after those reports came out, I remember that particular weekend, they played completely differently. They stopped doing the whole 50 yards of space, you attack, we attack, tennis ball experiment. And it was very much like more possession-based and stuff like that. Which, so yeah, I mean, we did see that. What I will say is in the first half, and against Villa, and against Bournemouth, played some nice football. They don't have their best players against Newcastle, by the way. But some of the football was really in tight, quick spaces. Some of the
not just launching it.
Interchanges. Yeah. It feels like it was like a one-touch, take your man on if you have to, then pass it. I think Cunha and Mbeumo being in there has added to that because they have to do that a lot. So the others are like, okay, well, I try it. And then Casemiro tried it where it was like, touch and I'm going to take 2 players on. And then they dispossessed him. It was like, oh, hold on. That's enough, Uncle. All right. Go take a timeout.
Uncle Cass. Yeah, that's the strange thing about Amorim because it's not just the system or the philosophy or the formation that we can't quite get a handle on. It's also like, when are they going to launch it? Because they've played a lot of games this season where they've just gone very, very direct. I would bet, I haven't looked at the numbers in FBref today, but I would bet we did not play a lot of long balls today. And sometimes we were up to 40-odd% against Liverpool. It was full-on crazy gang Wimbledon, like kick it into the corners style. And it was not that today. And this was with Sesko on the pitch. When Sesko was injured a few weeks back, and we put in like 40 crosses, and you're like, who's going to head that in, mate? And it was so odd. It's very hard to like, what are they trying today? Sometimes, like, when it so obviously doesn't work, and you're like, what was the week's worth of training that led up to that performance?
Yeah,
and you're right, and they were not bad against Villa. I mean, it was the details went against them in the second half against Villa. Details matter in football, and all of that. They were very good first half today, and backs against the wall second half. They were very good attacking, and then wildly open against Bournemouth. Like none of these things are like consistent. Completely different performances and approaches and systems. And then against West Ham and Everton, they just like forgot that you're supposed to attack in a game of football. And in order to score goals, you also need to do some attacking, especially against Everton. 10 men up, and you were like, nah, we'll just try and hold what we've got. It's so hard to get a handle on all of it, which all goes to the point that if we had an agenda, it would make no sense, right? Because I'm like, what would be the agenda?
What an agenda is. Yeah.
What do you make of all the subs? Because they really did change I guess Fletcher for Mount was enforced. Let's just assume. I haven't seen, but Xerxes for Sesko on 60 minutes. Lenny Yora for Casemiro, same window. And then Malacia and Fredrickson with, 2 minutes plus the final 10 minutes, which is a little odd.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, I think you alluded to it earlier, keep them fresh, make sure nobody gets injured. Mount has a history of injuries. Uncle Cass needs his shoulders massaged and his Kool-Aid at the end of them. And I felt like some of the other subs, it was the right thing to do, trying a different striker option. as well, because, all right, he didn't trap the ball and he didn't chase it into the corners like I wanted, and he wasn't as active as he did, but I feel like you had to throw the dice anyway. Fredrickson, I don't know. I'm baffled, mate. Honestly, with that one, I'm completely baffled. Leacher was heading the ball away, I think perfectly fine, with, I think, 7 minutes added on as well. He's done it before where he changes the system and the formation far too much, too quickly. His in-game management is, unless he's like gone for it in the Europa League, it stank a lot.
Yeah.
And I felt like immediately when he took Casemiro off, Lewis Hall smacked the bar for Newcastle. And they had a good 5 minutes where they really pumped us.
It was like they flicked a switch and it went from playing decent to playing shit. Just like press the button, yeah. I was just looking. He felt something at halftime. He wanted to go on. That's also a good thing. He wanted to go in the second half, but we can't lose more players if you're not 100%. And Jack did a very good job. That's what he said of Mason Mount. Casemiro, we all saw the reaction. Not surprised, but again, I think that's... And then the Fredrickson one, I like particularly because Sam Luckhurst of The Sun wrote in that really sneering piece a couple of days ago when he was going on about, he took that one line that Amorim said about entitlement, right? In which it was in the same conversation where he'd mentioned Chido Obi and Harry Amas and the other midfielder who's gone to West Brom, who I completely am blanking on, you'll tell me. And he used that word entitlement, right? Second language, who knows what he actually meant. And then Luckhurst had written this whole piece sneering at the academy and they're all entitled and they don't deserve it. And he wrote in that piece, Tyler Fredrickson, who was hauled off at halftime against Grimsby and will never play a game for United again, right? As if he was so bad that he'll never play a game for United again. And he has played another game, which goes to prove that Sam Luckhurst is wrong in almost every single circumstance whenever he puts a piece of pen to paper, because he's a fucking shit journalist and a terrible human being. Anyway, apart from that rant...
Hold that.
Deary me. Yeah, that man. I've got some stories, but I cannot...
Oh, give us one. Give us one.
I can't repeat them in public.
Subscribe and we'll give you it.
First Amendment rights here in the US. Stretched so far.
I think it was brilliant, honestly brilliant, that it's wild that, like, he says, it's like you said, it's all like, I don't know, it's like the Da Vinci Code a little bit. It's so complex, but like he'll say one thing and do another. He wasn't cussing the academy players or saying that, but it was there was more conjecture building around Cobby, and we don't get enough academy minutes, and we're coming off a huge win where two academy players got valuable minutes. Fletcher played an entire half, did a good job on Bruno Guimaraes, I felt, or a good enough job for...
Good enough job. He couldn't really get on the ball, but I think defensively...
No, I don't think anybody could, but defensively he was good. It's terrible if there was a lapse in judgment, because I could see that spaces were opening up, particularly on that right-hand side after he went to a back five. But I think it's wonderful that they got those minutes in a big win, because they'll feel that energy now, and then they can go forth and Amorim wins on that one, because he can turn up in the next one and say, "Hey, played some academy players there."
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think there's all context, and the reason the academy thing was coming up was because Cobby was not getting any minutes, and he'd had Shea Lacey on the bench 4 or 5 games in a row, didn't give him any minutes. And despite injuries, players who are failing again and again were still getting time, and he wasn't calling on the academy. And then in particular, he said weird things about Toby Collier, whose name I've gotten earlier, and Chido Obi and Harry Amas, all 3 of which were totally wrong and just give you the impression that he just doesn't watch either players on loan or the academy. I mean, he can't do, otherwise he wouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
So that's why that narrative built. I mean, you look at Sporting, he played a lot of youngsters, and it was out of necessity because they didn't have a big budget. In fact, when he came in, they'd effectively gone bust and hadn't paid the wages, and so they had to play a lot of youngsters, and it proved to be very useful for him. And then he wasn't, and he was having to go to academy, and it felt a bit weird, even though I think it's fair if the academy is now producing a lot of youngsters, but they have been 15, 16, 17, just coming in this wave, right? Next 2 years, we should get a lot of talented players, potentially.
Mm-hmm.
but it was after 10 years of really like not putting enough investment in. Honestly, it was not a thing that was important to the Glazer family.
Which is incredible.
Which is incredible, really.
It's incredible. It's just,
and Sir Jim has been very critical, but I think his critique is like from a macro level, not the current players that are in there right now, but we should be investing more. Because if you look at Chelsea and City and to a certain extent Liverpool, what can you get for your 20 to 25 million a year that you invest in the academy? You could get one player into the team or 2 or 3 sales, which has been a regular feature of City and Chelsea, and it's a real profit centre and free players into the team. And you just can't ignore that, right? For the top clubs, it's Chelsea have sold like £400 million worth of academy players over the last decade or something. It's free money.
Yeah. I mean, the last time Man United won a major trophy, I think 4 players from the academy that played in the final.
Well, and 2 of them scored.
Yes, yeah. And now all 4 of them are not in the team or away, are abroad. One's at Barcelona, one's at Napoli, one's at Chelsea.
I mean, Amorim did say in that same press conference, the one just gone, that Kobbie Mainoo is the future of United. And it's fine saying that, but
what's happened to this guy? I mean, but what happened before this press conference? I mean, who was in his ear? It's quite plausible that somebody from Ineos may have been in his ear. I don't know.
Well, that quote about "I won't get the money or the time" sort of thing. I would be very surprised if Jason Wilcox is tapping him on the shoulder and going, "Mate, you've got to get points, or we're going to sack you." But I'm sure they have very honest conversations. Like I'd imagine more often with Barada and Wilcox than Ratcliffe. And I'm sure it's very frank and honest. And what can we do this winter? And how are things going? What does it look like? Because, by the way, Wilcox will get as much, if not more, data and analysis from that wider team that he's now in control of, a really big team of scouts and analysts and coaches and video people and so on. And the data team also comes under him. He's going to get as much information as Ruben, and they have the cameras up at Carrington, so they're getting all the data from the training session. So there's no hiding place, really.
I mean, I guess we'll see. It's just there's always a magnifying glass attached to a Manchester United manager in press conferences, particularly when the water is choppy, or when there's problems afoot, or when a lot of people don't like the manager. I think I remember like the only calm press conferences that I can remember is like when Solskjaer was doing well and he was just being a very good company man and talking about how much he loved United and loved the players. So I also think he's kind of too honest.
He is, because it's picked up and used against him. I totally agree that we over-egg the importance of a press conference, but in a sense, he's talking to the press, but he's talking to us, the fans.
Yes,
via the press, right?
Yeah, we're gonna latch onto it.
Yeah, of course we're going to latch onto it. And as I always felt a bit odd, Ferguson used to have a go at the press all the time, and the reaction from United fans was, "Yeah, get into them." And I always thought, well, okay, fair enough. Like if they're the enemy, great. But he's also talking to us as well. And so sometimes with Fergie, I was like, it doesn't always have to be antagonistic, mate. You can give us some info as well. But he saw it as a war.
I felt like, Fergie used anything to fire himself up. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fergie can do no wrong anyway. He's the godfather. He's Don Vito Corleone.
Well, apart from the time that he sold the club out for some horse cum. But, apart from that.
That was all right.
Zero wrong.
That was all right. So what? All right, so what? He deserved, let the man have a horse.
It wasn't the horse. It was the argument. He had the horse. It was like, who owned the jizz? That was like, it was £10 million worth of horse jizz. That's what they were fighting over. Yeah.
Don't intrude on a man's private life, is what I would say. But no, just going back to Amorim and his press conferences.
I'm not saying he was wanking the horse off. He wasn't personally.
Who said that? You said that. But anyway,
all right.
Amorim, going back to Amorim and his press conferences, he's I think he had one like last week where he came out a little bit more fiery. We were talking about like Sir Alex Ferguson being fiery in the press conferences. Pep is very fiery in the press conferences. I think he uses it to sort of fire everybody up. I'd like him to lean more into that rather than having a profile of a guy who sits in and is like, the team's kind of mid. I'm going to have to wait. And the academy players, they're also kind of, I don't know, I'm not feeling them. You know what I mean? I feel like there's not...
sure, yeah.
I feel like a lot of the stuff that comes from press conferences they lead us to talk more about things. They don't kind of make us beat our chests. Apart from the one against, I think, Aston Villa, where he was like, this club is too used to entitlement and we need to improve and we need to grow.
I mean, Mourinho's still the master, isn't he? Like, if you follow what Mourinho says, it's predetermined with him. He's always got a thing he wants to say. Although he was, did you see that clip from a few weeks ago? He was asked very specifically about his double pivot and how they for Benfica.
That was good.
And how they were playing wider, right? And it was a really detailed question and he got a really detailed answer. But Mourinho being Mourinho, he couldn't say, great question. Like, let's talk about it. He had to go, well, perhaps you can teach your colleagues to not be such fucking idiots. Like,
it's so hard to not like him, even though like everyone knows he's washed. Even Benfica, like, no, go on. I know you washed, but go on, give us 1 year, just because of how box office he is. But I mean, I guess he also does a lot of media. Maybe you can clue the listeners in and me more in on this. Is he signed up to do that before he comes in? Do the club tell him to do that? Is that an Ineos thing? Because I even saw 442 magazine. He's on the cover of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know whether they're giving more access. I mean, he's certainly doing quite a few sponsor stuff. And I think someone had counted up last season about however many hundreds of media engagements he does. I mean, they're committed to do the 2 a week press conferences. And if we're not having...
Okay, yeah. Sorry.
Well, it's a pre-game and a post-game. He'll do that. And then he'll do his classic Friday one if it's a weekend game and it's shifted around a little bit because of the number of like odd Monday games we've had and stuff like that. So, and then he'll do the post-game. So I guess that's 4, normal press conferences. And I guess he might have had more if he was doing European games and all of that. I mean, I say that's 4. That's only 4 if we've got a midweek game. And then he's done a lot of media aside from that. I don't think he's contracted to do that. He may be a few MUTV ones or sponsor ones. I doubt he'd be contracted for the MUTV ones. I think that's more about like...
I think you kind of like...
supporting club media.
That's like a propaganda tool, really, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And why not? Why not?
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Although, I've said this before, New United podcast, it's not good.
No. Is that what you do in your spare time?
Listen to podcast, yes, a lot. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Understandable.
It's the job
given your job
these days. Yeah. I don't know what to put. It's not very exciting. I'd cut the pieces up. They do these long form interviews and the people interviewing the collection they've got, the crew who do the interviews now, they're a new group. There's not a lot of banter between them, and it's a long form interview, and I'd chop it up into segments personally to make it a bit more exciting. It was such a refreshing thing when it first the Man United pod first came in, because they were interesting and they asked interesting questions and there was banter between the crowd, and it wasn't all corporate. Like I expected it to be corporate nonsense. That are Manchester United the best team in the world today? Yes, absolutely they are. Can you do any wrong? No, we can't. Expected it to be that. And it wasn't.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, right. Pravda, as they Reddish used to call MUTV Pravda. Pravda, the old Soviet state paper that was like, is the supreme leader,
the greatest.
Yeah, the greatest thing ever, yeah. It is interesting with clubs, because clubs are also safe about their press and media. They're worried about blowback, for sure, right? But I think the weight of the blowback is now not from traditional media, because their numbers are declining. It's from 500 million fans who are on Twitter or YouTube.
Yes.
And who see it, right?
Changed.
You're talking to a different audience these days. Yeah.
I feel like that also adds to it as well, because you get on Twitter and then it's always, you're kind of hearing people reacting to what's happened in the press conferences, or what somebody has said midweek, or an incident that's happened midweek, or a player that might be injured, because it's a constant juggernaut, Man United as well. It keeps on churning. The news never really stops. But I mean,
Never.
Aside from that, aside from everything, it's a busy schedule coming up. There's, I think, only a few more days before the Wolves game.
Tuesday, yeah.
Still all hands to the pump. Huge players are missing. The manager does good things, then weird things, then says good things in the press conferences, then says weird things. We're into December now. In the next 3 or 4 months, if you can grind more wins out, get to game week 25, get to game week 30, you could be in for a top 4 race. It's open.
It's open. It's there. The prize is there.
It's open and it's there. But I mean, what I was thinking about the other day, I don't like the fact that last year happened, because I feel like we're still dealing with the aftershocks of that. This club should never deal with that. I'm sorry, it never should.
Fair
be.
enough. Yeah,
the standards should have never dropped that way. This club should never behave like another elite club does, because we were miles ahead for years and years. This club still makes the second most amount of money in the world as a football club. In the world, football is 70% money, 10% how you spend it with board of directors, and the remainder is managers and tactics and players. So I can't believe that we're here, but there is something to look forward to, I feel, in this season. There's things going on to hang on to.
Yeah, I do wonder whether they'll spend some money in January. Now we didn't get Semenyo, who's clearly been a long-term target, and he's going to City. Good for you, mate.
Good for you,
rotate
mate.
with the 12 other players they've got in exactly the same positions. But, hey, you want that? You got it. Enjoy the championship when we finally get the 115 verdict.
And that title, that extra title that we're missing, we'll take that.
Yeah, I'd just liquidate the whole fucking club, to be honest. Absolute cancer. But there you go. Apparently I'm on one today. I should have had more beers.
Have one. I have to have one after this.
I will do. I need to calm down. Well, let's talk about United versus Wolves on Tuesday, because they were so shit against us, which led a lot of people to go, we just won 4-1, you're being negative. But I was just like, I just can't believe I can't believe us. Yeah, I can't believe a team that has been this bad. I mean, they basically played 2 at the back against us and pushed everyone else forward, and we just like one ball over the top and we're through. They won't play like that again, surely. Surely not, as bad as they are.
I think they were caught in between, because, what Amorim has really struggled with is when he played a back 3. Obviously, things have changed a little bit now with the tweaks. This is huge tactically. When he's played with a back 3 forwards press the back 3, and then when they pass it wide to the fullback left or right, they pin him in one zone. I think that's what they were trying. It's just they're really crap in general as a football team. So then United players were like, oh, hold on, there's loads of spaces here. I've never dealt with this. I've never had this luxury before. So let's see. I feel like it'll be that Arsenal game where they will be more compact and they were set up to frustrate.
But very much did, yeah.
They're at home. Cunha's running his Wolves gimmick like he basically did when he kept them up, because we're not a one-man team, but we're kind of relying on him to be the guy now. That's why I was fuming with him when he got a yellow card and he was still shouting at the ref after. I don't know if you saw it against Newcastle. I was like, mate, please. Cut that out.
Also, actually, he played very well today, and he's playing very well generally. And the numbers, his assists and chances created and goals and stuff don't really reflect, I think, his performances. But we had that one break today where he had Dorgu to his right, and Newcastle had overloaded their right. So Dorgu was basically free if he'd played the ball. And I forget who was running up the left with him. He went on his own, took a left foot shot, and it's kind of pathetic. Maybe it was Sesko. It was just a really bad option. Didn't pick the right one there. But generally speaking, I think his performance has been excellent, and he kind of sets the tone for United as well. He's aggressive and he presses and he runs with the ball, and he just never... You always feel like he's on the edge of getting a card, right? Not that he does a lot of tackles, but he's aggressive.
He's really...
He's definitely a United player, right? If you could go, United player. And I think we kind of thought that when he came in anyway. And it's just kind of... It's just a shame that his purchase meant that Bruno had to move, like one of the world's greatest creative players, had to move out of his best position in order to accommodate this new guy who's also a very good player.
Yeah. I mean, but I would say to that, took a look at
Bruno's. If you could have, if you played a 4-2-3-1, you could play both.
You could do both.
Just saying that.
You could do
just
both.
Saying,
Maybe have some more wine and think it over. What I would say to that is look at Fernandez's numbers this season. They haven't really
They're
been
still
affected.
good.
They
Yeah.
haven't really been affected. And the team clearly misses him, like they missed him today. But I thought that it was really good that they were encouraging each other throughout the game as well. Sounds a bit like PE teacher for me to say that. But they were doling out a lot of high fives and they were like encouraging each other a lot. When they rely on that more and when they're like, we're in this together, it feels like they're more together as a unit. Team spirit has definitely improved this season.
Seems to be good, doesn't it? Yeah.
They all went to a Drake concert together.
Yeah.
Oi, hold on. The greatest artist that ever lived. Let them go to that concert.
So did he not your favorite then?
Definitely not. I don't have one Diddy song in my flop Spotify at all. I don't at all.
That was a joke, everyone, before you get on
Just
the case.
yeah. Don't. No negative comments, please.
Yeah. Anyway, Wolves are shit. We should beat them. And, I mean, depends on how the results go on Saturday, of course. But dare I say it, it's looking all right, you know? I don't know what the thing is. It's either hyper-competitive or there are a lot of flawed teams or both.
Both, I think.
But the European places are very much up for grabs. Like, there are not that many. Apart from City and Arsenal, and I guess Villa can fight it out now if Villa sustain this run, which the data nerds would say is not likely. Who else? You know, you got United, Chelsea, Palace, Sunderland. Like, there's a bit of competition for those European places, but it's definitely there. You know, it would be extremely frustrating if United end the season out of European places, or worse still, 7th and in the Conference League.
If you can get through this tough period with injuries, with AFCON, if you can get some points on the board, I feel like they were kind of using that as motivation today. Sometimes teams do that. If you can get through that little period, get numbers back, put yourself in a really good spot with 10 games to go, 15 games to go. You never know what can happen. All
right. On that note, supporters, patreon.com/NQ80 pod. I think we're due to do one. Dharnish, no, nearly called you Ruben Amorim then. But that's my next pod. Have him on the next one. We're going to talk about City and the charges and
all the good stuff.
Why they're buying players when they're almost certainly going down and all of that kind of stuff. So patreon.com/NQ80 pod for that one. Otherwise, we'll be back after the Wolves game on Tuesday with another victory. Surely.
Hopefully.
Thanks, Dharnish.
Thank you very much.